I'm Michael, a 60-year-old businessman who thought he had it all. A loving son, a beautiful home, and a legacy I built from the ground up. But one phone call on Christmas Eve shattered that perfect life into a million pieces. My son, the center of my world, was in a hospital bed, barely clinging to life. And his wife, my daughter-in-law, she was thousands of miles away, on a yacht laughing and drinking with her friends. In that moment, something inside me broke. I knew I couldn't save my son, not entirely. But I could make her pay. I could make her lose everything, just like she was making me lose him. The first phone call came at 1 o'clock in the morning on Christmas Eve. I was in bed trying to fall asleep when the ringtone sliced through the silence of my big house. Nobody calls that late unless something is wrong. My heart started thumping like a drum. I glanced at the caller ID and saw an unknown number with a Miami area code. I knew it had to be a mistake. We live in Colorado, thousands of miles from Florida, but I answered anyway. "Mr. Grant?" a woman's voice asked with a soft southern accent. She sounded professional, but there was a tremor in her voice. "This is Nurse Ramirez at Baptist Hospital. We have your son Ethan here." The world seemed to spin on its axis. My head was suddenly buzzing, and I could barely hear her over the sound of my own thoughts screaming. "What happened? Is he okay?" I asked. My voice came out as a whisper. "I can't share any details over the phone," she said, her voice turning more serious. "But it's a critical situation. He's been admitted to the intensive care unit. You need to get here as soon as you can." My mind went blank. The only thing I could think of was getting to him. I hung up the phone and got out of bed. My hands were shaking as I pulled on a pair of jeans and a sweater. I didn't bother packing a suitcase. I just grabbed my wallet, my phone, and my keys. I knew I had a private jet available to me. I had a company, Grant & Sons, that I had built from the ground up. I had the means to get to him. I was in my car 5 minutes later, driving through the silent, snow-covered streets to the small private airport I used. The air was cold, but I didn't feel it. All I felt was a terrible dread gripping my stomach. I couldn't stop thinking about Ethan. My boy. My only son. He was my whole world, my legacy. His mother, Sarah, had passed away 3 years ago from cancer, and it was just the two of us left. The thought of losing him too was unbearable. The flight to Miami was a blur. I sat in the cabin staring out the window at the endless darkness of the night sky, feeling completely helpless. I tried to call Ethan's wife, Brittany, but her phone went straight to voicemail. I called again and again, but the result was the same. She wasn't answering. It seemed strange, but I just assumed she was in shock or had her phone turned off. I decided to try again when I got to the hospital. By the time we landed, the sun was just beginning to peek over the horizon. The Florida heat wrapped around me like a heavy blanket, instantly pulling sweat from my skin, despite the early hour. I took a taxi straight to the hospital. The air in the hospital was cold and smelled of antiseptic, a stark contrast to the humid air outside. I walked up to the front desk, my heart pounding in my chest. "I'm here to see Ethan Grant," I told the receptionist. "I'm his father, Michael Grant." The receptionist looked at her screen, her face unreadable. "Room number 205, sir. Intensive care unit." I walked down the long hallway, each step feeling like a ton of bricks. I saw the sign for the intensive care unit and pushed open the heavy double doors. The room was filled with the low hum of machines. I saw him then lying in the bed, pale and still. His face was gaunt, and his skin had a slight gray tint to it. Tubes were everywhere attached to his nose and arm, and a machine beside him was beeping softly. He was all alone. No wife, no family, just a few blinking machines in a silence that felt so loud it was deafening. I walked over to his bed and took his hand. It was cold. I felt a tear roll down my cheek. I had to be strong for him. I sat down in the chair beside his bed and tried to catch my breath. The first thing I needed to do was find Brittany. I needed to know why she wasn't here. I pulled out my phone and tried her number one more time. Still nothing. I went to her social media page to see if she had posted anything. Maybe she had sent out a message to her followers. I scrolled down her feed until I saw it. A video she had posted just a few hours ago. It showed her standing on the deck of a yacht, a glass of champagne in her hand, smiling as she took a selfie. In the background, I could hear loud music and a group of people laughing. The caption read, "Best Christmas party ever." It was in that moment, seeing my son lying alone in a hospital bed on Christmas Eve while his wife was off partying, that something inside me broke, and a new man was born. A man filled not with grief, but with a cold, hard resolve. I wasn't just here to take care of my son. I was here to make her pay. My anger was a cold, quiet thing, a complete contrast to the warmth of the Miami air outside the hospital. I sat there in the silence of Ethan's room for what felt like an eternity, just holding his hand. The doctor finally came in, a kind-faced man named Dr. Evans. He spoke to me in a hushed tone, explaining everything that had happened. "We found a serious condition, Mr. Grant," he said, gesturing to the machines. "It looks like a severe infection. It spread very quickly. He was very weak when he came in. He's stable now, but we're still not out of the woods." I listened intently, my mind racing. "How long has he been like this?" "The paramedics found him in his apartment. He was barely conscious," Dr. Evans said. "He must have been feeling sick for quite some time, days, at least, to let it get this bad. We'll know more once his blood work comes back, but a condition like this doesn't happen overnight." Days he'd been feeling sick for days, and Brittany wasn't there. A knot twisted in my gut. I looked down at my son's pale face, his chest rising and falling with the help of a machine. My boy, my 29-year-old boy, lying here alone on Christmas Eve. A quiet, terrifying realization was beginning to set in. This wasn't just about an infection. It was about neglect. I stood up and went to the waiting area to give the nurses some space. I tried Brittany's number again. Still nothing. I felt a surge of frustration. Where in the world was she? Didn't she know her husband was in the ICU? I pulled up her Instagram page again. I scrolled down past the selfie on the yacht. A few more photos down was a picture of her at a 5-star restaurant in Los Angeles. The caption was, "Pre-Christmas dinner with my love." She had tagged Ethan. I looked at the date and saw that it was from 3 days ago. That was around the same time Dr. Evans said Ethan must have started feeling ill. The perfect couple living the perfect life. I felt sick to my stomach. I put my phone back in my pocket and sat down in one of the hard plastic chairs. I thought back to the last time I had seen them 2 months ago. They had come to Colorado to visit me. Everything had seemed fine. Ethan seemed happy, and Brittany had been all smiles. She talked a lot about her social media business and how well it was doing. I didn't pay much attention to it then, but now every little detail seemed important. I remembered a small comment Ethan had made. He had been looking a little tired. I asked him if everything was okay. He just shrugged and said he was busy with work. He said he had been feeling a little run down lately. I thought nothing of it. We all get run down sometimes. But now it sounded different. Now it sounded like a cry for help that I'd been too blind to hear. I opened up the social media app again, feeling a cold fury building in my chest. I scrolled through more of her photos. A picture of her with some friends at a Hollywood Hills mansion. The caption, soaking up the California sun. Another picture of her with a group of women all laughing at a high-end club, partying with my favorite girls. My hands were shaking as I held the phone. My boy was lying in a hospital bed, and his wife was thousands of miles away, living it up with her friends, not a care in the world. She had abandoned him. She had chosen a party over his life. A wave of disgust washed over me. I had to do something. I had to make her understand the gravity of her actions. I couldn't just stand by and let her get away with it. She had to learn. I stood up, feeling a new kind of strength I hadn't felt in a long time. It was the strength of a father protecting his child. My grief was still there, but it was buried deep under a layer of cold, hard resolve. I wasn't just here to watch my son get better. I was here to make her pay. And I was going to do it in a way she never saw coming. I turned to walk back to Ethan's room, but then I stopped. I pulled out my phone again and went to my contacts. I scrolled until I found the name I was looking for. Mr. R. Harris, my lawyer. I had to make a phone call, a very important phone call. I called Mr. Harris, my lawyer, and a trusted friend for over 30 years. He answered on the second ring, his voice groggy. He wasn't expecting a call from me, especially not at 3 a.m. Christmas Eve. "Michael?" he asked, his voice full of concern. "Is everything all right? Did something happen to Ethan? He's in the ICU." I said, my voice flat. I didn't have the energy for emotion. "Severe infection. They found him in his apartment." He was alone. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. I could hear Mr. Harris taking a deep breath. "I'm so sorry, Michael. I'm on my way." "No," I said, my voice hard. "I'm in Miami. I flew down here a few hours ago. He's stable for now, but I need you to do something for me. Something we talked about a long time ago. I need you to activate the Christmas protocol." I could hear the sudden sharpness in his breathing. He didn't ask what I meant. He knew. "Are you sure, Michael, we put that in place for an absolute worst-case scenario? This is serious." "I'm sure," I said. My gaze fell on my son's phone, still in my hand. "Brittany is in Los Angeles. She was on a yacht for a Christmas party when Ethan was lying here dying. That's all you need to know." I could hear the shuffling of papers on his end of the line. "Give me 15 minutes. I'll get everything together. I need you to authorize it verbally over the phone, then a signed document via email. You know the drill." "I know the drill," I said. "Just do it, and call me back." I hung up the phone and walked back to Ethan's room. He still lay there, his face so pale and still. I pulled up a chair and sat down, taking his hand in mine. As I sat there, the memories came flooding back. I had built my company, Grant & Sons, from the ground up over 40 years. It had started with just a few guys and a single beat-up pickup truck. Now it was a multi-million-dollar real estate and investment firm. I had worked hard for every single cent, and I had always planned to give it all to Ethan. He was my boy. He was all I had left of Sarah. Sarah, my beautiful wife. She had been gone for 3 years now, but not a day went by that I didn't miss her. She was the one who had always kept me grounded. After her diagnosis, she had made me promise something. She said, "Michael, I know you love Ethan more than anything. But he's a grown man now, and he needs to learn to stand on his own 2 feet. Don't ever let anyone take advantage of him or you. He needs to find his own way, not just ride on your coattails." I knew what she was talking about. I saw it from the moment Ethan met Brittany. She was all beauty and charm on the outside. But I saw something in her eyes, a kind of cold, calculated ambition that made me uneasy. She was a social media influencer, and she saw the world as a game to be won, a platform to be conquered. She saw me not as a father, but as a resource, an endless bank account. She spent Ethan's money like it was water, and he never said a word. He was so blinded by her beauty and her charm that he couldn't see what was happening. That was when I started to put the plan into place. I called Mr. Harris, and we started to set up a series of shell companies and secret trust funds. We put everything in my name with a strict clause that gave me complete control in case of an emergency. Ethan's supposed job at the tech company in Miami, his luxury car, his penthouse apartment. It was all a shell game, a beautiful lie I had created for him. I knew it was dangerous, but I was so afraid of him losing everything he had worked so hard for. I just wanted to protect him. I just wanted to make sure he was safe. I had been so careful. But in my care and in my concern, I had made a terrible mistake. I had given him everything without teaching him the value of it. I had given him a life he didn't earn. And he let Brittany take it all for granted. The moment I saw that video of her on the yacht laughing and drinking, while my son was lying here dying, I knew I had to make a change. I had to let her know that she had messed with the wrong man. I had to let her know that she had messed with the wrong family. Mr. Harris called me back. "It's done," he said. "The Christmas protocol has been activated. All accounts have been frozen. The legal notices are on their way. Everything that's in her name is now in mine. She has nothing left." A cold, hard satisfaction settled in my chest. I hung up the phone. It was time for Brittany to pay. She thought she was playing with a man who could be easily manipulated. She was wrong. She had just made the biggest mistake of her life. She was about to find out what it really meant to be rich and what it meant to be poor. The game had just begun. The game had just changed. I hung up the phone with Mr. Harris, the cool plastic feeling solid in my hand. The game had just changed, and I was about to play my hand. My heart was still pounding from the adrenaline of the last few hours. The shock, the grief, the cold fury that had been building inside me for months all culminated in that single phone call. I knew what I had to do. I had to take control not just for myself, but for Ethan. I had to show Brittany that she wasn't playing with a fool. She was playing with a man who had built an empire from nothing. I pulled out my laptop and opened the secure files Mr. Harris had sent. The screen glowed in the dim light of the hospital room. My fingers moved with a practiced ease, logging into the intricate system of accounts and trusts that Mr. Harris and I had so painstakingly created. We had named one of them Evergreen Holdings and another Coastal Trust. It was all a front, a perfectly legal and meticulously built system designed to give Brittany the illusion of financial independence while keeping every cent firmly under my control. It was the fail-safe, the plan I had never wanted to use. And now, the time had come. I started with the bank accounts. Brittany had a flair for the dramatic, and she loved to post about her lavish lifestyle. Her Instagram feed was full of designer clothes and jewelry, all of it bought with money that she believed was theirs. It was easy to track. A few clicks, a few commands, and the accounts were frozen. I sent a series of encrypted messages to Mr. Harris confirming each transaction. I could almost hear the little ka-ching as each account was shut down. The money was gone, all of it. Next, I turned my attention to the assets. The penthouse, the luxury car, the expensive jewelry she had been showing off on social media. Everything. I pulled up the lease agreements and the vehicle titles. Everything was in the name of Evergreen Holdings or Coastal Trust, not Ethan's, not Brittany's. A few more clicks and the lease on their penthouse apartment was terminated. The legal notice was sent to a courier for immediate delivery. She would have to be out of the apartment by the end of the day. My phone rang, and it was Mr. Harris. "Michael, I just got your messages," he said, his voice a low hum. "All accounts have been frozen. The legal notices have been sent. The car will be gone within the hour." I smiled to myself, a cold, hard smile that didn't reach my eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Harris. This is just the beginning." I looked at my son's phone again. It was 7 in the morning in Los Angeles. The party on the yacht had probably just ended. Brittany was probably just waking up. She had no idea what was coming. She was about to find out what it really meant to be poor. She was about to find out what it meant to be alone. She was about to find out what it meant to face the consequences of her actions. She thought she was playing with a man who could be easily manipulated. She was wrong. She had just made the biggest mistake of her life. She was about to find out what it really meant to be rich and what it meant to be poor. The game had just begun. The game had just changed. I hung up the phone and looked back at my son. His chest was still rising and falling with a gentle rhythm, but he looked so small and so fragile. I felt a surge of protectiveness, a feeling so strong it was almost painful. I had to be strong for him. I had to be the rock he could lean on. I had to be the man he could trust. The sun was just beginning to rise over the Miami skyline, a faint orange glow on the horizon. I looked out the window of the hospital room, a silent witness to the dawn of a new day, a new chapter in our lives. I had a lot to do, but for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of purpose, a sense of control. The game had just begun. The game had just changed. My work was done. The legal notices were on their way. The accounts were frozen, and the game had just changed. I looked at the clock on the wall of the hospital room. It was now just past 4 o'clock in the morning in Miami. That meant it was 7 o'clock in the morning in Los Angeles. The party on the yacht was likely just coming to an end. It was the perfect time for the chaos to begin. I imagined the scene a picture-perfect setting for a spoiled girl's world to come crashing down. I envisioned Brittany a vision in a white designer dress, her face glowing with the morning sun, her laughter still echoing in the sea breeze. She was probably toasting to her perfect life, to her beautiful husband, to the endless stream of money that flowed into her life. Her friends would be around her, all of them, beautiful all of them, a reflection of her own perceived success. She was a queen, and her yacht was her kingdom. The party was just a small piece of her perfect curated life. Suddenly, her phone would buzz. It would be a text from her bank, a simple notification of a transaction declined. She would probably laugh it off, thinking it was a simple mistake. She would try her card again this time for a small coffee from a street vendor. The card would be declined again. The little smile on her face would fade, replaced by a frown. She would try another card, then another and another. Each time the same result. Declined. Her eyes would dart around the group of people around her, and she would start to feel the first stirrings of panic. Her friends would start to notice her agitation, but she would just laugh it off, saying it was a simple mistake with the bank. But it was no mistake. Every single account she had, every single credit card she possessed, was now frozen. The money was still there, but she couldn't touch it. It was like a ghost, a phantom limb that she could feel, but could no longer use. I imagined her pulling out her phone, her fingers fumbling as she tried to call her bank. She would be put on hold, and the automated voice would tell her that her accounts had been restricted due to suspicious activity. Her heart would start to pound, a frantic, terrified rhythm. She would try to call Ethan, but his phone was in my possession. She would try to call her friends, but they would just laugh, thinking she was playing a joke on them. Her perfect world was crumbling, and she was the only one who could see it. The laughter and the music on the yacht would start to sound hollow, and her perfect life would begin to look like a stage set. I had seen it for a long time. She was living a life that wasn't hers, and she was about to find out what it really felt like to be a nobody. I had to admit, there was a certain satisfaction in picturing her panic. I had spent so long watching her use my son, use my money, use everything I had built, and I had been powerless to stop her. But not anymore. I had found my power, and I was going to use it to its full potential. I was going to show her what it felt like to be on the other side of the fence. I was going to show her what it felt like to have your life fall apart in a single day. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through her social media feed again. Her last post was a picture of her with her friends, a group of women she had been partying with for the last 2 days. They were all beautiful, all smiling, all seemingly happy. But I knew the truth. I knew that in a few hours, those smiles would fade, the laughter would turn to whispers, and the whispers would turn to accusations. She was about to be abandoned. She was about to be alone. She was about to find out what it really meant to be a nobody. I closed my laptop and put it back in my bag. I had done what I had to do. The first part of the plan was complete. The rest was up to her. She had a choice to make. She could either stay in Los Angeles and try to fix things, or she could come to Miami and face me. I knew what she would choose. She would come here, she would come to me, and she would try to convince me to give her everything back. And that was when the real game would begin. I knew she would come. My phone had been buzzing all morning with notifications from my legal team, all of them confirming that the notices had been sent. The accounts were frozen, and the game had officially begun. I just had to wait for her to make her first move. I sat in the waiting area of the hospital, sipping a bad cup of coffee, and watched the main doors. It wasn't long before I saw her. She was a whirlwind of motion, her long blonde hair a mess around her face, her eyes wide and wild. She was wearing a crumpled white dress that must have been a fortune, and her face was pale and drawn. She looked nothing like the smiling, carefree girl I had seen in her Instagram videos just a few hours ago. She marched straight to the front desk, her voice a high-pitched shriek. "I need to know where my husband is," she demanded. "My name is Brittany Carter, and I need to see my husband, Ethan Grant. He's in the ICU, and I need to know what's going on." The receptionist, a calm, middle-aged woman, just looked at her. "Ma'am, I can't give out any information. You'll have to speak to his family." Brittany's eyes darted around the room, and then she saw me. Her face went from panic to pure rage. She marched straight towards me, her hands clenched into fists. "You!" she screamed. "You did this! I know it was you! You froze all my accounts. You took everything from me." I just sat there, sipping my coffee, watching her. I didn't say a word. I just let her scream. She was a hurricane of emotion, a tornado of fury, and I was just a rock in the middle of it all. I wasn't going to let her see that she had gotten to me. I wasn't going to let her see that her words had any power over me. I was just going to sit there and watch her self-destruct. I don't know what you're talking about," I said, my voice calm and even. "I'm just a father here to be with my son. I'm just here to make sure he's okay." Her face went from rage to pure disbelief. "Don't lie to me," she screamed. "I know it was you. You're trying to punish me for something, aren't you? You're trying to get back at me because you think I'm not good enough for your son. But you're wrong. I'm the best thing that ever happened to him. I love him more than anyone." I just looked at her, and I felt a cold, hard satisfaction. She was so predictable. She was so easy to read. She thought she was a genius, a master manipulator, but she was just a child throwing a tantrum. I could see the wheels turning in her head. She was trying to figure out how to get her money back, how to get her life back, but she couldn't. It was gone, all of it. "Is that so?" I asked, my voice still calm. "If you love him so much, then why weren't you here?" Why were you in Los Angeles, partying on a yacht while he was lying in a hospital bed dying? Why weren't you by his side when he needed you the most? Her face went blank. The rage was gone, replaced by a sudden terrifying realization. She didn't have an answer. She couldn't. I had caught her in a trap, and she had walked right into it. She looked at me, and I could see the fear in her eyes. She knew that I knew. She knew that I had seen her for who she really was. The mask was off, and the real Brittany was standing right in front of me. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, her voice a whisper. I was just with friends. I was just... You were just having the time of your life," I said, my voice still calm. "You were just enjoying a life that you never earned, a life that was given to you by me. And now it's gone. All of it. You have nothing left." Her face went from fear to pure, unadulterated hatred. She looked at me, and I could see the fire in her eyes. She was no longer a child throwing a tantrum. She was a snake, a venomous, evil creature that was about to strike. I knew what she was going to do. She was going to try to hit me where it hurt. She was going to try to hurt my son. I was ready for her. I was ready for anything. I was ready for the real game to begin. She looked at me, a venomous fire in her eyes. I knew what she was going to do. She was going to try and hurt me, to try and hurt Ethan. But I was ready for her. I was ready for the real game to begin. I just looked at her, and I saw a scared little girl trying to put on a brave face. She was a master of manipulation, but she wasn't a master of me. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, her voice a low growl. "You're just a bitter old man who's jealous of my success. You're jealous of my life, and you're jealous of my relationship with Ethan." I smiled to myself, an molten hard smile that didn't reach my eyes. "Is that what you think?" I asked. "You think I'm jealous? You think I'm bitter? You think I'm just an old man who can't stand to see his son happy?" Her face was a mask of pure hatred. "I know it. You've always hated me. You've always tried to come between us. You've always tried to control Ethan. But you'll never win. You'll never get rid of me." I just looked at her, and I felt a wave of pity. She was so predictable. She was so easy to read. She thought she was a genius, a master manipulator. But she was just a child throwing a tantrum. I could see the wheels turning in her head. She was trying to figure out how to get her money back, how to get her life back. But she couldn't. It was gone, all of it. "You're right," I said, my voice calm and even. "I'm not jealous. I'm not bitter. I'm just a father who loves his son. And I'm a man who's about to show you what it really means to be poor. You see, Brittany, you don't have a life. You have a facade. You have a lie that you've been living for the last year. And I'm about to show you the truth." I took out my phone and pulled up a legal document. I turned the screen towards her. It was a lease agreement for her penthouse apartment, a lease in the name of one of my companies, Evergreen Holdings. The lease was terminated effective immediately. Her face went from rage to pure disbelief. She looked at the document, and her eyes went wide. She started to shake her head, as if trying to deny what she was seeing. "No," she said, her voice a whisper. "This isn't real. This is a lie. This is a fake. You're trying to trick me." "It's not a trick, Brittany," I said, my voice still calm. "It's the truth. You don't own that apartment. You never did. It was just a prop, a stage for your little show. You don't have a job either. Your little job at Venture Tech was a lie. You were being paid by another one of my companies, Coastal Trust. Your salary, your bonus, everything you thought was yours was actually mine. Her face went from disbelief to pure, unadulterated shock. She looked at me and I could see the wheels turning in her head. She was trying to put the pieces together. The sudden disappearance of her money, the frozen accounts, the legal documents. It all made sense now. She had been living a lie, a beautiful, perfect lie that I had created for her. And now I was about to tear it all down. "And what about the car?" she asked, her voice a low growl. "What about the BMW? Is that yours too?" "The BMW is a company vehicle, Brittany," I said, my voice still calm. "It's a company car, a lease in the name of Grant and Sons. It's not yours. It never was. Everything you have, everything you own, everything you believe is yours is actually mine. You don't have a life, Brittany. You have a facade. And I'm about to tear it all down." Her face went from shock to pure, unadulterated hatred. She looked at me and I could see the fire in her eyes. She was no longer a child throwing a tantrum. She was a snake, a venomous, evil creature that was about to strike. She started to scream, to curse, to rage. She was a woman who had lost everything, and she was about to make me pay for it. I was ready for her. I was ready for anything. I was ready for the real game to begin. She looked at me and I could see the fire in her eyes. She was no longer a child throwing a tantrum. She was a snake, a venomous, evil creature that was about to strike. She started to scream, to curse, to rage. She was a woman who had lost everything, and she was about to make me pay for it. I was ready for her. I was ready for anything. I was ready for the real game to begin. The fire in her eyes was replaced with a sudden icy fear. She looked at me and I could see the wheels turning in her head. She was trying to figure out how to get out of this. She was trying to figure out a way to get her life back. She took a deep breath, and then she started to cry. The tears were instant, and they streamed down her face, a torrent of self-pity and feigned grief. "Please, Michael," she sobbed, reaching out her hands to me. "Please don't do this. I'm so sorry. I didn't know what was happening. I was just so scared. I didn't know what to do." I just looked at her, and I felt nothing. No anger, no pity, no sadness. Just a cold, hard resolve. I had seen her cry before. It was a tool she used when her charm and her good looks failed. It was a weapon she had honed to perfection. But it had no power over me. Not anymore. I had seen her true colors. "Don't lie to me, Brittany," I said, my voice calm and even. "You're not sorry. You're just angry that you got caught. You're angry that your little game is over. You're angry that you have nothing left." Her tears stopped as quickly as they had started. Her face was a mask of pure hatred. "You're a monster," she screamed. "You're a bitter, cruel old man. You're trying to ruin my life. You're trying to take everything from me." I just looked at her, and I felt a wave of pity. She was so predictable. She was so easy to read. She thought she was a genius, a master manipulator, but she was just a child throwing a tantrum. I could see the wheels turning in her head. She was trying to figure out how to get her money back, how to get her life back. But she couldn't. It was gone, all of it. "You're right," I said, my voice still calm. "I am a father. And a father's job is to protect his son. A father's job is to make sure his son is safe. And you, Brittany, were not safe for my son. You were a leech. You were a parasite. You were a sickness that was eating him from the inside out." Her face went from rage to pure, unadulterated fear. She took a step back as if she was afraid I was going to hit her. But I wasn't. I was just going to tell her the truth. I was going to tell her what she already knew in her heart. "You see, Brittany," I said, my voice a low growl, "I didn't take anything from you. I just took back what was mine. I took back what you thought was yours. You're a woman who has no job, no money, no home. You're a woman who has nothing. And you have no one to blame but yourself." Her face went from fear to pure, unadulterated hatred. She looked at me and I could see the fire in her eyes. She was no longer a child throwing a tantrum. She was a snake, a venomous evil creature that was about to strike. She took a deep breath, and then she started to scream, to curse, to rage. She was a woman who had lost everything, and she was about to make me pay for it. "I'll sue you," she screamed, her voice a high-pitched shriek. "I'll take you to court. I'll tell the whole world what you did to me. I'll tell them that you're a monster, a cruel, bitter old man who tried to ruin my life. I'll take everything from you. Everything. I'll make you pay for this. I'll make you pay for everything." I just looked at her and I felt a wave of sadness. She was so predictable. She was so easy to read. She thought she was a genius, a master manipulator, but she was just a child throwing a tantrum. I could see the wheels turning in her head. She was trying to figure out how to get her money back, how to get her life back. But she couldn't. It was gone. All of it. "Go ahead," I said, my voice still calm. "Do your worst. I'm a man who has worked his entire life for what he has. I'm a man who has built an empire from nothing. I'm a man who has faced down men far more powerful than you. I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of your lawyers. I'm not afraid of your threats. Do your worst. I'm ready for you. I'm ready for anything. I'm ready for the real game to begin." She looked at me and I could see the fear in her eyes. She knew I was telling the truth. She knew she had no chance against me. She knew she had messed with the wrong man. She turned around and stormed out of the hospital, leaving a trail of tears and self-pity in her wake. I watched her go, and I felt a sense of relief wash over me. The first battle was over. The real war was about to begin. The first battle was over. The real war was about to begin. I didn't have to wait long. The very next day, a courier arrived at the hospital with a thick packet of legal documents. It was a cease and desist letter, a motion for an emergency injunction, and a notice of a lawsuit. Brittany was suing me. She was claiming that I had illegally frozen her assets and that I was trying to ruin her life. I took the documents, a small smile on my face. She was so predictable. I had known she would do this. She was a woman who was used to getting her way, and she was not going to take this sitting down. She was going to fight me, and she was going to use every weapon in her arsenal. I just had to be ready for her. I called Mr. Harris, and he was already on it. He had a team of lawyers working around the clock just for this. "Michael, the papers just came in," he said, his voice calm and even. "They're claiming illegal asset seizure, emotional distress, and defamation of character. It's a textbook case, a real rookie move." "And what's our move?" I asked, my voice calm and even. "Our move is to show them the truth," he said. "We have everything. We have the trust documents, the shell company papers, the transfer records. We have everything we need to prove that she has absolutely no claim to any of it. We're going to show them that this isn't a case of illegal asset seizure. This is a case of a man protecting his son from a woman who was using him for money." I smiled to myself, a cold, hard smile that didn't reach my eyes. She had no idea what she was up against. She thought she was playing with a man who could be easily manipulated. She was wrong. She was about to find out what it really meant to be a nobody. She was about to find out what it meant to face the consequences of her actions. The next few days were a blur of legal documents, phone calls, and meetings. I had to sign a number of affidavits, give depositions, and provide legal testimony. It was a long, arduous process, but I knew it was worth it. I knew that I was doing the right thing. I knew that I was fighting for my son's life. I was fighting for his future. Brittany and her legal team, a small aggressive law firm, were doing their best to find a loophole to find a way to get her money back. They were doing everything they could to try and prove that the trusts and the shell companies were illegal. But they couldn't. Mr. Harris had designed the system with a genius that was simply breathtaking. It was a legal fortress, a financial labyrinth that no one could navigate without my help. "They're getting desperate, Michael," Mr. Harris said over the phone one evening. "They're trying to claim that the trusts were created to defraud her. They're trying to claim that you were just trying to hide your assets from her. It's a baseless claim, but it's all they have." "And what's our response?" I asked, my voice calm and even. "Our response is the truth," he said. "We're going to show them that the trusts were created to protect Ethan, not to defraud Brittany. We're going to show them that you're a father who is trying to save his son from a woman who was using him for money. We're going to show them that this isn't a case of fraud. This is a case of a man fighting for his family." I just looked at him, and I felt a wave of pity. She was so predictable. She was so easy to read. She thought she was a genius, a master manipulator, but she was just a child throwing a tantrum. I could see the wheels turning in her head. She was trying to figure out how to get her money back, how to get her life back. But she couldn't. It was gone, all of it. The final verdict came in a week later. The court ruled that Brittany had no legal claim to any of the money or assets. The trusts were legal. The shell companies were legal, and the assets were mine. The court also ordered her to pay my legal fees. She was a woman who had lost everything, and now she was in debt. She was a woman who had nothing, and she had no one to blame but herself. The legal war was over, and I had won. The legal war was over, and I had won. But it didn't feel like a victory. Not really. I had a piece of paper that said I was right, that I was in control. But it meant nothing. Not until my son was safe. The doctors said his condition had stabilized. The infection was clearing, and he was finally strong enough to be moved out of the ICU. They moved him to a private room, a quiet, peaceful place with a window that looked out on a small garden. I spent the next few days in that room, just sitting by his side. I didn't say a word. I just watched him sleep. I watched his chest rise and fall with a gentle rhythm. I watched his face slowly regain some of its color. I watched him, and I waited. I was a father, and a father's job is to protect his son. I had done that. Now it was time for him to wake up. He woke up on the third day. His eyes fluttered open, and he looked around the room, confused. He saw me sitting there, and a slow, weak smile spread across his face. "Dad," he said, his voice a raspy whisper. "What happened? Where am I?" "You're in the hospital, son." I said, my voice gentle. "You've been very sick, but you're going to be okay. You're going to be just fine." He looked at me, and his eyes were full of questions. What happened to me? How did I get here? I took a deep breath. This was it. This was the moment of truth. I had to tell him everything. I had to tell him what I had done, and I had to tell him why. I had to tell him about Brittany, and I had to tell him about the truth. "You were found in your apartment, son," I said, my voice calm and even. "You were very sick. You were alone. Your wife, she wasn't there. He looked at me and his face went blank. "Where was she?" he asked, his voice a whisper. "Where was Brittany?" I looked at him and I saw a scared little boy trying to put on a brave face. I had to be strong for him. I had to tell him the truth. "She was in Los Angeles, son," I said. "She was on a yacht. She was partying with her friends. She was not here. She was not with you." His face went from confusion to a sudden terrifying realization. He started to shake his head as if trying to deny what he was hearing. "No," he said, his voice a whisper. "That's not true. She would never do that. She loves me. She would never leave me." I just looked at him and I felt a wave of pity. He was so predictable. He was so easy to read. He thought he was a genius, a master manipulator, but he was just a child throwing a tantrum. I could see the wheels turning in his head. He was trying to figure out how to get his money back, how to get his life back. But he couldn't. It was gone, all of it. "She didn't, son," I said, my voice still gentle. "I did. I'm the one who took everything from her. I'm the one who froze her accounts. I'm the one who took back the car, the apartment, the money. It was all mine, son, all of it. I gave it to you to help you get on your feet. But you let her take it all for granted. You let her use you. You let her use me." He looked at me and his face went from shock to pure, unadulterated shame. He looked down at his hands and his eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry, Dad," he said, his voice a choked sob. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I didn't know what I was doing. I was so blind. I was so stupid." I just looked at him and I felt a wave of love so strong it was almost painful. He was my son. He was my boy. He was all I had left of Sarah, and I was going to do everything in my power to make him feel whole again. I was going to show him that he was worth it. I was going to show him that he was worth fighting for. "I know, son," I said, my voice still gentle. "I know. But it's okay. It's all going to be okay. We're going to get through this. Together. We're going to start over. We're going to build a new life for ourselves. A real life. A life that we can be proud of. A life that we can build on our own. A life that we can build with our own hands. A life that we can build with our own love. A life that we can build with our own respect." He looked at me and his eyes were full of tears. He reached out and took my hand. "I'm with you, Dad," he said. "I'm with you." He reached out and took my hand. "I'm with you, Dad," he said. "I'm with you." It was all I needed to hear. In that moment, all the pain, all the frustration, all the anger of the last few days just melted away. My boy was back. He was no longer a stranger. He was my son, and he was ready to fight. I knew it was time for him to take control of his own life. Over the next 2 days, Ethan's recovery was nothing short of miraculous. He was moved out of the hospital and into a small, quiet hotel room I had booked. We spent the time talking not just about what had happened, but about what he wanted to do with his life. He talked about his dreams, his ambitions, his hopes for the future. He talked about how he had always wanted to be a real estate agent, but that he had been too afraid to try. He had been too afraid to fail. He had been too afraid to let me down. On the morning of the 3rd day, he looked at me and said, "I need to do something, Dad. I need to make a phone call." I knew exactly who he was going to call. I just looked at him and nodded. "Are you sure you're ready?" I asked. He just looked at me and smiled a real smile, a smile that reached his eyes. "I'm ready," he said. "I'm ready to be a man." He took a deep breath, and then he pulled out his phone. He scrolled through his contacts, and then he pressed a button. I could hear the ringing on the other end of the line. It rang twice, and then a familiar voice answered. "Ethan." Brittany's voice was a whisper. "Ethan, is that you? I've been so worried about you. Where have you been? I've been trying to call you. I've been so scared." I saw Ethan's face harden. He wasn't a scared little boy anymore. He was a man. "Don't lie to me, Brittany," he said, his voice calm and even. "I know where you were. I know what you were doing. I know you were in Los Angeles, partying with your friends while I was lying here dying. I know that you were not here. I know that you were not with me." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. I could hear her breathing, and then she started to cry. "Please, Ethan," she sobbed. "Please don't say that. I'm so sorry. I didn't know what was happening. I was just so scared. I didn't know what to do." "You knew what you were doing, Brittany," Ethan said, his voice still calm. "You were living a lie. You were living a life that wasn't yours. You were living a life that was given to you by my father. And you had no right to it. You have no right to it now." There was another long silence, and then her voice turned from a sob to a high-pitched shriek. "You're just like him. You're just a cruel, bitter old man. You're just trying to ruin my life. But you'll never win. You'll never get rid of me. I'll sue you. I'll take you to court. I'll tell the whole world what you did to me. I'll tell them that you're a monster, a cruel, bitter old man who tried to ruin my life." Ethan just smiled. "Go ahead, Brittany," he said, his voice still calm. "Do your worst. I'm a man who has worked his entire life for what he has. I'm a man who has built an empire from nothing. I'm a man who has faced down men far more powerful than you. I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of your lawyers. I'm not afraid of your threats. Do your worst. I'm ready for you. I'm ready for anything. I'm ready for the real game to begin." He hung up the phone and looked at me, a sense of peace on his face. He had done it. He had faced her, and he had won. I was so proud of him. He was a man now, a real man. He was no longer a child who was afraid of a woman who was just a child herself. He was a man who had faced his demons, and he had won. Over the next few days, the fallout was swift and brutal. I had my team monitor Brittany's social media. Her followers, who had once adored her, were now turning on her. The comments on her posts went from, "You're an inspiration," to, "How could you abandon your sick husband?" The likes and views on her videos plummeted. Her sponsors dropped her. Her brand was ruined. Her life was over. On a cool, sunny morning, we boarded my private jet and flew home to Colorado. We left Miami behind, and we left Brittany behind. We were ready for a new life. A real life. A life that we could be proud of. A life that we could build with our own hands. A life that we could build with our own love. A life that we could build with our own respect. We were home, and we were ready to begin again. We were home, and we were ready to begin again. The first thing I did when we got back to Colorado was make a decision I had been putting off for a long time. I was going to sell Grant & Sons. My company had been my entire life for 40 years. It was a part of me, a piece of my soul. But I knew it was time to let it go. My son had just gone through a life-changing experience, and I wanted to be there for him. I wanted to be a father, not just a business owner. I wanted to focus on my son and on myself and on building a new life for us. The sale of the company took a few months. It was a long, arduous process, but I knew it was the right decision. I had a team of trusted advisors, and they made sure that I got a fair price. When the deal was done, I felt a sense of relief that I hadn't felt in years. The weight of the world was off my shoulders, and I was free. I was finally free. I decided to take a large portion of the money from the sale and put it towards a new venture, something that had been on my mind for a long time. I wanted to do something to honor my late wife, Sarah. I wanted to do something to help others, to give back to the community that had given me so much. I decided to create a foundation in her name, the Sarah Grant Foundation. The foundation's mission was simple. We were going to provide scholarships to underprivileged students who wanted to go to college. We were going to give them a chance to build a life for themselves, to build a life that they could be proud of. The first person we gave a scholarship to was a young woman from a small town in Colorado. Her name was Maria, and she was the first person in her family to go to college. She wanted to be a doctor, and she was a brilliant, hard-working girl. When I gave her the check, she just started to cry. She said that she had always wanted to be a doctor, but that she had never thought it would be possible. I just looked at her, and I felt a wave of pride. I knew that my wife would have been so proud of her. I knew that my wife would have been so proud of me. In the meantime, Ethan was doing well. He had decided to get a job in real estate just like he had always wanted to. He started at a small local firm, and he worked his way up from the bottom. He worked hard, he put in the hours, and he learned the business from the ground up. He wasn't living in a fancy apartment anymore, but he was living in a life that he had built for himself. He was living a life that he had earned. He was a man now, a real man. And I was so proud of him. One evening he came over to my house for dinner. We were sitting on the porch sipping a glass of iced tea, and he looked at me and said, "Dad, I need to thank you." I just looked at him, and I felt a wave of surprise. "Thank me for what?" I asked. "For everything," he said, his voice a low growl. "For saving me. For showing me the truth. For showing me what it really means to be a man." I just looked at him, and my eyes filled with tears. He had no idea what that meant to me. He had no idea what his words meant to a father who had been so afraid of losing his son. I had been so afraid that I had failed him. I had been so afraid that I had made a terrible mistake. But now I knew that I hadn't. I knew that I had done the right thing. I knew that I had done what I had to do. He reached out and took my hand. "I'm with you, Dad," he said. "I'm with you." The journey that led us here was a difficult one, full of pain and betrayal. But what it taught me is that true generosity isn't endless giving. It's about building a foundation strong enough for others to build upon themselves. For years, I mistook subsidy for support, and my kindness was treated not as a gift, but as an endless resource to be drained. Setting a boundary and finally saying no was not an act of revenge. It was an act of correction. It allowed my son the dignity of facing his own consequences and gave me back the peace of owning my own life. You cannot save someone from a storm they create. You can only show them how to build their own shelter and then trust them to pick up the hammer. The most important lesson this journey taught me is that true generosity isn't endless giving. It's about building a foundation strong enough for others to build upon themselves. If this story resonated with you, please show your support by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing your impressions in the comments below.